Before we get into today's episode, this one is brought to you by Flowdesk, the email marketing platform I use to run my own newsletter at Line Creatives. If you've been putting off starting an email list or you're on a platform that just isn't working for you, Flowdesk is worth a look. The templates are beautiful, it's easy to use, and it's built for small business owners. Get 25% off your first year at flowdesk.com/c/Line Creatives, but I'll make sure to drop the link in the show notes.
I took a big focus at the beginning in cycle syncing our businesses because I am fascinated by our cycle and how it affects us at all of our different phases and how we'll be interested in certain tasks or really excited for certain things at one point of our cycle, and then you couldn't pay us to do it later down the line, and understanding how to make that something that's a little bit more predictable so that way we can get our tasks done, the right tasks done at the right time, and we do them much faster.
Welcome to This Might Get Creative, a Behind the Brand podcast by Line Creatives. I'm Svenja Line, and in each episode, I sit down with local business owners and entrepreneurs to share their stories, how they got started, what keeps them going, and what makes their business stand out. My goal? To help more amazing businesses be seen, supported, and celebrated. So grab your coffee, because this might just get creative. Welcome back to This Might Get Creative, the podcast where real business owners talk openly about what it takes to build something that works. I'm your host, Svenja Line, brand advisor and creative director at Line Creatives, and today's guest has built her business around the one core idea, that you should be able to grow without losing yourself in the process. Julia DeWolfe is a CBT-informed business coach and the founder of Off the Record, a one-to-one coaching program for women in service and expertise-based businesses. She helps her clients untangle the beliefs running in the background, the ones shaping every decision, every client interaction, every moment of self-doubt, so they can build a business that fits their brain. She works with clients through Voxer, which means she's in the mix with them in real time, not waiting for the next scheduled call. Today, we're talking about business design, cycle syncing, why anti-hustle is not the same as anti-ambition, and why Julia thinks reading fiction is one of the best things a business owner can do. Julia, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So excited to have you. So tell us about your business. How did you get started? When did it start? What are you offering?
My business started in 2020, as many women in the online field, their businesses started at the same time. There was a big boom. And how it developed was organically, I also think, as most businesses do, where you start with one idea and then you field test it. And then it's like, what? Everybody's asking me about this thing over here and a little bit about that. And you just kind of develop as you go. So my business has always been built around one-on-one connection with founders, though. From the beginning, I've known that I wanted to create a space for women-owned businesses where they could openly talk about all of the things that are happening in their business, affecting their business, but also that are happening in their life, because those two things coincide very often. Our energy is affected by how we're showing up. Usually the purpose behind why we're building a business is directly connected to a major life event. For many women, it's having a child or, different changes in their life. So from the beginning, that has always been the driving force in my business. I took a big focus at the beginning in cycle syncing our businesses because I am fascinated by our cycle and how it affects us at all of our different phases and how we'll be interested in certain tasks or really excited for certain things at one point of our cycle, and then you couldn't pay us to do it later down the line, and understanding how to make that something that's a little bit more predictable so that way we can get our tasks done, the right tasks done at the right time, and we do them much faster. So that's what I started with. But over time, it developed because I do also have a background in marketing. I've always loved business. I grew up in a family of serial entrepreneurs, and I love business. And so it really started to develop more into incorporating, our personal branding and understanding our messaging, and then understanding our strategy and what do we actually want to do. So that way, all of our business goals match up with those core principles of who are you at the inside of your business? How do we bridge that head and the heart connection and bring that forth?
Okay. And how do you work with your clients? I know that on the pre-call we talked about Voxer. I had never heard of Voxer before, but walk us a little about through your process. So how do you work with your clients?
So I have a very close working relationship with my clients. I use Voxer because it has that kind of async ability, right? So like they can be talking and I can, if I catch it, I can listen at the exact same time they're talking so we can have a conversation. But mostly because my clients are very busy women and they're not doing their best work sitting on a call and I'm not doing my best work sitting on a call, and everything's happening in our business all the time. So I wanted to be more available in the moments that my clients needed me. So I talk to my clients every day. We usually have a morning check-in. I, will listen while they're on their walk with their dog, or they're coming home from dropping their kids off from school, and they're just processing through all of the things that are on their mind for the day, what they want to work through. A lot of times we're having big aha moments in the morning, right, where they're, we just had it this week with one of my clients where she's like, no, I know exactly what I want my next offer to be. And so we mapped out what that looks like. And then we'll usually have like a midday check-in and then usually at the end of the day wrap up. So I'm there for the whole thing. Some of my clients I hear from at nighttime when somebody in their family's acting up, somebody's doing something. But yeah, I'm there all the time with my clients.
Okay. And for those listening that do not know Voxer, and maybe I'm the only one, but it's an app. It's like a walkie-talkie.
Yeah, it's a walkie-talkie app. It's been around for a while. I remember my friends and I using it when I was like in my early 20s because the walkie-talkie idea was just so fun, so cool at the time. I wish that there was another app that combined all of the things, but right now that's the best one that I've got because of the live capability. I hate the lag time on sometimes like with Slack where it's like, okay, you record, the person records the message, they send it over, and then I have to listen to the message, and then I have to record the message and then send it back, and they have to listen to it. So it just ends up with a lot of lag time in the middle. Yeah. Voxer, it's a little bit of a quicker back and forth. So far, that's what we've got. And it's easy access. It can be free or it can be very, very cheap. So I like the accessibility of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I still have to check it out. I didn't have the time yet to check it out, but definitely going to check it out. And you work specifically with women in service businesses, and they are hitting their capacity as solopreneurs.
Yes. Yeah. So they've got a successful business. They have a business that they know is working. People are responding to it, but they're maxed out at their capacity. Maybe they have one team member. Usually most people's first hire is usually a VA, whether that's the right first hire or not. I love VAs, but sometimes we're not making that might not be the best first hire for your VA that you do get down the line to be most successful, but that's a separate issue. But they're at the point where they're deep in the weeds on all of the stuff. So they're really hands-on with all of the deliverables. They're head down in the weeds. Usually that's not where they're doing their best work now at this point, is that once you've had your business for a while, the weeds grow. The weeds become a lot of things that you never intended to do in the first place. Right? You now suddenly your hands in on the marketing stuff and your hands in on all of these different things. And probably 10 of those things are out of your zone of genius and probably never were things that you wanted to do in the first place. So they're deep in the weeds on this stuff. They can't imagine what they would do in order to get their business either to grow a little bit, to up their income, or just to get some things off of their plate. They're really not sure how to wiggle for that.
And I think that's an important comment that you made. We always, since we started by ourselves, we think we can do it all. And I guess, and I fall into that category too, because when you start, you have to do everything by yourself. But I hate accounting. Like there's nothing, physics, that might be worth accounting, but accounting is definitely up there. I do not like it. I have no desire to do it. I can do the design. I can make a beautiful website, but accounting, but I have to do it. But I always talk to my husband. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm good in this part. So maybe hiring someone that is good in the other part is actually helping us as business owners grow, because we don't have to rely on ourselves and figure things out that we're not actually good at.
There is a point where something's genuinely a waste of your time.
Yeah.
Just because you could do it doesn't mean that you need to do it.
Yes.
And there's actually a good amount of research behind what happens when people focus on their strength versus focusing on their weaknesses. If you've ever worked in corporate, you've probably heard of the Clifton Strengths Finder. Is based on the idea that everybody has their own unique set of strengths, but you can kind of divide them up into these core themes. I think it's 34 themes. All of the strengths are neutral. It's not like any set's better than the other ones, but when people focus on developing their strengths, they're able to accomplish much more faster than when they focus on their weaknesses. And we just have this tendency to look at the things that we're not good at, and we are focused on like the underdog story of, well, I have to be able to do this thing. I need to bootstrap through. And sometimes that is genuinely just a really poor use of your time. You need to step back and think, like, where is this getting me towards my actual end goal? Is learning how to be an accountant, like, are you going to be an accountant? Like, is that something that you want to do? Or, it's okay to look and say, you know what, that's not in my set of skills, but it is in my set of skills, all these things over here. So I'm going to go pour gasoline on those things and let someone whose set of skills is accounting handle that. And that's okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. And sometimes the same applies to design. With all the programs and apps that are out there, like Canva and, all these other things, everybody thinks that they can and should do their own design. But going back to my example of the accountant, and I'm pretty sure there's accountants out there that have beautiful design skills. However, most likely that's not in their wheelhouse, because they are the accountant and not the designer. And Canva and any other program cannot replace that, because if you can't do design, you can't do design in Canva either. And I think sometimes we overlook those things, and we don't pay attention to what actually drains us and what fuels us. So, yes. You have a background in CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. So how does that work?
So cognitive behavioral therapy is an amazing tool. It's used in many ways, and we see it reflected in our life every moment of every day. It's based on the idea that we all have these core beliefs that we develop over time, whether through interactions from people, things that we're told. It's how we think the world works. And then those core beliefs spark our emotions. Our emotions spark our thoughts and our behaviors. And our thoughts and our behaviors then drive what we do or what we avoid. And what we do and what we avoid will always confirm that top core belief. That's how we get in this little triangle. So cognitive behavioral therapy is about taking the belief off the shelf and just neutrally looking at it, right? Like just like taking a book off the shelf, where you look at it, you look at all the sides. What's this about? What's going on in here? And you want to understand it. A lot of times we'll say things like, well, I know I shouldn't feel like that, but this is what it is. And so this is not the I shouldn't feel like that, or I don't know why I feel like that. This is literally taking it off the shelf, thinking to myself, why do I feel this way? What are the things that have happened in my world that have made this feel true? What are the things that I'm ignoring that would say that that thing is not true? And we start to work through the thought.
I think I love the theory behind it, and we talked about it at our pre-call. I love the theory behind it, but I feel like it's very hard to even, because you write down, let's say you have a journal and you write down your feelings. Okay, in this moment I feel like this. But how do I know why I feel like that? Like, what do we have to do? What do we have to go deeper into? that we figure out, because that's what I'm struggling with, where I really write down, I'm trying to journal, I'm trying to put it all on paper, but I can't really give answers to it. Like, because sometimes it's just like that, you know?
Mm. Sometimes it is just like that, sure. But sometimes it's about having the intention at the beginning, like I said, that we are seeking to understand. Many times I think where the wheels come off the wagon for us is that we feel like we need to fix something, and really we need to understand it. Most of the time we don't need to be fixed, we need to be understood, and that starts with us. So when we have a certain feeling, we want to look and see, well, what made me feel that feeling? Like, what was the interaction, or what was the situation? What was the thing that was happening because of that? What was happening that then made that feeling happen? And then once we have a little bit of information about that, we want to stop and think, like, okay, so what was the thought? What was the belief that I had about myself, about other people, about the way the world works? Like, what was the thing that was like, bing? And we usually will recognize that it's usually very polarizing statements. Nothing ever works out for me. I'm always struggling with my marketing. Everyone else is ahead of where I want to be.
Everybody's better than me.
Correct. Yeah. Everybody else knows something that I don't know. Like, and a lot of those thoughts are probably thoughts that we've carried with us for a long time. So that feeling of putting your marketing out there and people aren't responding to it may be very similar to the feeling that you had getting picked last for gym class, right? Like, it might have a long standing pattern where, like, nobody wants to spend time with me, or something like that. We have those undercurrent beliefs. That's the belief that we want to then take out and say, okay, so what are the things that have happened in my life or in my business that are making that feel true? So let's take the marketing one for an example. So nothing that I do in my marketing ever works for me. So we believe this. Okay, so what's the evidence that we have that that's true? So I've done these marketing campaigns, I've run ads, stuff's not happening, whatever it might be. But then this is where it gets the trickiest for people, as we look and we say, what's the evidence that that belief is not true? Because that's all the stuff that we've been, our brain's been purposely ignoring. We're like, no, we're not hanging on to that. And that's probably the things like, you have clients. So how'd you get those clients? You got them somehow. Somewhere your marketing worked. So we want to go look over there. There are people interacting with your things. Maybe it's not as many people as you would like, but there are people interacting. Like, we start to look at the evidence. And then once we've sort of broken down the evidence, then we look and we say, okay, so what was going on with this thought? Were we jumping to conclusions? Were we catastrophizing? Were we like taking the absolute worst case scenario that we're afraid of and pulling that into our mind? Are we labeling, like, this one thing didn't go well, so therefore I'm a failure? We start to break that thought down. Once we've done that, we've given our brain a little bit something different to work with. Then we look and we say, so what would be a healthier thought to have around this situation? And the healthier thought there, rather than nobody ever responds to my marketing, would be, well, obviously I have some tweaks to make to my marketing, but I have data that I can work off of because people have responded in the past. So let me go and see what was working over there. And now it gives us something to work on instead of just being stuck and kind of like throwing our hands up and be like, this is just how it always is.
I think that's a good example. And when you put that example onto social media marketing, because social media is so draining, and I feel that, and I've said it on multiple podcasts, that I do not like social media. But the initial fear of posting, because you put yourself out there, you have pictures of yourself, you write something, and then the thoughts are always like, oh, people are not going to like it. But then look at your own behavior, how you look at things on social media. You might see something that interests you, but you don't always like it. But you're also neutral. You don't really, maybe you think, oh, that was fun, Or, oh, that was stupid. But then you move on and you don't even remember what it was. And I think that sometimes this fear is maybe validated, but what's the worst case scenario? That someone doesn't like your post? Ooh.
Right.
Too bad. And you lose a follower, it doesn't really matter. It's...
Yeah. My go-to is always like, and I didn't die. Right. So something happens and okay, maybe it didn't go the way that I wanted, but even if somebody doesn't like it, that's data. Right. That's and it's not data that you shouldn't have done the thing. It's that you're getting some kind of reaction. For every one person who doesn't like something, there's somebody who does. So you know that you're at least making something that is creating some sort of connection in someone's brain.
And maybe that person was not even your target group.
They obviously weren't.
Like it because they are not in your target audience.
Right. I've been talking a lot about, I love this trend on social media right now where it's like, and for the lady, perhaps. And I did one the other day where I was like, and for the lady, perhaps talking a big talk. Because we see so many, especially women entrepreneurs, way underselling how good they are at what they do. And the root of them not owning it and talking the big talk, a lot of times is because they're afraid of somebody questioning them. So they shoot way low so that we never really know what they do and how good they are at what they do, because they're afraid of posting a quote unquote controversial opinion that somebody would then question them and make them question their expertise. It's rooted in a lot of shame and nervousness there. But we need to stop that. We need to stop that like yesterday, because too many women are way too good at what they do to not be clearly conveying exactly what it is.
Connecting that a little bit to what you said at the beginning with the cycle. Mm-hmm. Because I feel that depending on which cycle you're in, those feelings are enhanced or not there. And so tell us a little bit about the cycle,
Sure.
The connection between business cycle and all that.
Yeah. So for the purposes of this conversation, I'll divide it up into 4 parts. That can be divided up into more if you're being really biologically accurate, but it's easy enough for 4. So first you have your period, right? That's day 1. Your cycle starts, day 1 of your cycle starts when your period starts. This phase of your period of your cycle is usually kind of more introspective. I find that a lot of women are very, they're very focused on like goal setting at this point. It just feels like a great time to what didn't work and what do I want more of going forward. We're naturally just a little more attuned to, all right, it's a fresh start, and it feels good. So this is a great time to think about exactly that. What went well for you over the last month? What do you want to do more of? If we're booking calls and stuff, I recommend not booking a lot of calls during this time, just because you're allowed to have some downtime. You're more tired. Things are just a little slower. And this is it's a gift to be able to think about how are things going, kind of map it out, plan your next phase of your cycle. As your period wraps up, this is where we usually really start feeling like ourselves, like the best version of ourselves. Mm-hmm. This is your follicular phase. Mm-hmm. And this is where our energy is usually pretty high, our focus is pretty good, and we're ready to act on all the stuff that we just planned. This all culminates around ovulation. And ovulation is where your hormones are at their peak. This is about a 3-day period. And again, if you're in control of your calendar, this is a great time to book podcast interviews. This is a great time to record your content. This is a great time to make pitches. This is a great time to, do whatever you want. Whatever is the big ask that needs the most confident version of you. Yeah. Beautiful time around that time to plan it, because you feel good. You feel good. You're showing up like you feel good. Your energy's high. Like everything's we're running on all cylinders. Immediately after ovulation, there is this little window that I call the luteal crisis, because at this point, your hormones, we're firing on all cylinders. They're about to do something so cool, but there's a little bloop divot where there's just not a lot happening. And at this point is when I find that all business owners are the worst the worst person to ever walk the planet at their business. Their business is awful. They should burn the whole thing down. They don't even know why they're doing this. All of their clients hate them. They're never going to be a success. It's everything. Everybody's 2 steps away from firing them and they're about to be living on the street. Like, it's this intense period. And it's just because our body's doing this thing. So after we ovulate, the follicle that released the egg does this amazing thing that it turns into a gland that then makes progesterone. And progesterone is our chill hormone. This is what helps us feel like, all right, here we go. We don't have any of it yet. So we're just in this little like zone, and it's just us and our thoughts, and it's amazing. But once you can identify it and you know this is a luteal crisis, that's what all of my clients, anytime one of my clients will come to me and be like, what am I even doing? Like, I'm positive that this is stupid. I should just burn the whole thing down. I will ask them, like, where are we at? Just where? And 9 times out of 10, we're in the luteal crisis. After that, we move into the luteal phase. And so, like, the true rest of the luteal phase, this lasts until your period starts. This can look very different for different people, depending on what they have going on in their body hormonally. But on a general sense, this is a great time to wrap stuff up. I kind of think of it as like the nesting phase of your cycle. You just want to get stuff off of your to-do list. Your bot is just go, go, go. You're ready to tackle those projects that have been sitting there for too long. You kind of just don't care. Like, whatever, just get it over with. This is a great time to have conversations that you've been putting where you want to be straightforward. I appreciate this. I don't like that. So what are we going to do about that going forward? Right? You're ready to have those conversations. Great time to negotiate. Really great time to negotiate. And then we start to wind down. We usually start to feel a little more tired towards the end, and that brings us back around to the beginning of our cycle again.
Yeah, it's so funny. So, and this is all like we have 1 week windows to do those things.
Ish. Yeah.
Yeah.
It depends because I do recommend tracking your cycle. I have an Aura ring. I love that for tracking my cycle. Because ovulation is the main event of your cycle. So you want to know when that's a very important metric for your health. This is a totally separate issue, but I feel like as women, we have not received enough education around how our cycle works. And ovulation is really important for a lot of things. So you want to make sure that that's happening. Even if you have like people who have PCOS or different things that may make ovulation like the longer periods, and you're still ovulating at some point. Like, so you can track that with your temperature. Yeah. But having something to work off of, because I don't love the apps that are just like, this week is this week, because that might not be your week for your cycle. Yeah. Anywhere from 20 to 36 days can be an average cycle. And some people go beyond that. Some people are shorter. Just talk to your doctor for that part. But like there can be some window in there.
Yeah, but I totally agree. Like, and I'm 100% sure that a lot of women that are going to listen to this episode, they are totally going to recognize, especially the one where you said there's the dip. Because exactly what you said, that nobody likes me, everybody hates me, I suck. This is stupid. I want to do something else. I want to be, I don't know, a baker. So,
Or, horror of horrors, apply for a job.
No, totally agree. And that brings me to, I mean, it's now we talked about, the cycle, but you said in your questionnaire that you rebuilt your business model entirely around how your brain works. So walk me through how that works in practice.
So I had built my business kind of the typical way that a coaching, or that I had seen a coaching business be built, where it was based on calls. So I would have, weekly, every other week, I was getting on an hour-long call with my clients, and that would be like our main check-in. From the beginning, though, I did always have Voxer for in between, because I was like, they're not going to remember stuff that's happening. And so I wanted to be involved in their business. Eventually, though, I hit a point where I had so many calls in a day. So I was having 6-7 calls a day, and I was totally fried. I was not doing my best work by the time you got me towards the end of the day. And I knew that something needed to change. So I was talking with my clients, and every single one of them said, like, we love the calls, but the most valuable part of working with you is what we do in Voxer, because it was fast. They could talk to me, they could talk through something as it happened. So as an issue with their team popped up, as their businesses grew, we could talk through that issue right as they were about to go have the meeting with this team member. If something came up that they were like, what about this idea? I want to make sure this has some place to live. Like that's what was most valuable for them. And they were extremely busy too. So getting our calls booked was proving to be a struggle. And like I said, I wasn't doing my best work. I just felt like I didn't have my best strategic brain by the time 3 o'clock in the afternoon would roll around and I had been on calls all day. So after getting that feedback from them that Voxer was the best part, I asked them, what would you think about cutting the calls? Like, you can always book a call if you feel like you need a call. Sometimes I will still do like a body doubling call with some of my clients where they just know they need stuff to get done. I'll hop on Zoom, but I'm working on other things too. And we're just kind of like bouncing things back and forth just so that they have that accountability side of things. But they were all so excited to switch over to Voxer. And it was such a cool feeling to see that when I built my business, and I was actually able to sell my coaching package better moving forward because of this. I was connecting with the people who I loved working with because I had stopped to think about, how would I actually do my best work? Not what was a kind of industry standard, but what would be the best way for me to do this work that I really love? And then letting myself do that. And it was scary because at first my thought was like, well, are people still going to value this? Like, you know, because I wasn't cutting my prices because it's still a lot of effort. And to see the feedback that, yeah, it's actually more valuable. I am more valuable in the services that I offer when it's set up to how I do my best work instead of forcing myself to fit into how everybody else has been doing the work.
That's interesting. An interesting part because sometimes the unconventional, which is not done all the time the same, like you always do it, attracts different people, but maybe it's also something new, something better. And then going back to those self-doubt moments when you try to implement something new, but it hasn't been done before. And it's like, oh, scared to do it. Yeah. So I always like to talk a little bit about the podcast because the podcast was kind of like a leap of faith too. I was scared to even have a podcast because I'm like, who is even going to listen to this? But it was a leap and I just stepped out and just did it. And I think what you said, that it was scary at the beginning to just switch to something that was working for a lot of other people to something new. Yeah, I can see that was a scary moment, but successful moment for you as well.
So when you were starting your podcast and you were afraid that nobody would listen to it, was it because so many other people were doing it and it was successful for them? So like, what if you took the swing and it wasn't successful for you?
Yeah. It was stupid. I mean, I had no idea how to even start a podcast. It was just something that I love listening to podcasts. And every time I listen to one, I'm like, oh, I want to have a podcast, but I never did. And then I talked to Angela, the photographer, and she said, well, just do it. I'm like, what do you mean, just do it? I can't just do it. And now I'm at a point, I mean, of course, I love that people listen to it, but at the same time, if you don't listen to it and if you don't like it, you're probably not the person that wants to listen to podcasts like mine. And I kind of stopped this belief that I'm not worth having a podcast, right? But that took that first step. You always need to do that first step because once you do the first step, it's not that scary anymore.
Right. And I feel like a lot of times we want skip the first step, but there are some things in business that there's just no shortcuts. Like we look at other people doing the thing and we're like, oh, how can I do the thing? And that's where we get caught up in buying a million courses and doing a million things because we want to see how other people are doing it. And really, we just needed to let ourselves throw spaghetti at the wall and see what happens, because it has to be that momentum. And then, like you said, once you realize, once you give your brain evidence, we didn't die. Nobody came and knocked the door down. Or in this case, I get it, because you obviously wanted it. It was something that was like a little seed of a fun dream for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then to act on it and then have it not pan out would have been sad.
Yes.
And so your brain was protecting you, where it was like, well, it'd be better just to, that's too hard. It comes up with all these reasons. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you did it.
There's also another point to this. Right from the beginning, in the first episode, I don't know if you want to go back to the first episode, I say this is my first episode. And I have no idea how to run a podcast. I have no idea. So I was open. So I was not expecting it to be this perfect thing. And I think if I would have set it up that way, that, oh, this is what I want to do, this is the people I want to reach, this is the target, this is the goal, I want to have that many listeners, it would not have been that great. Because then I would probably not have started, because there was too much to lose. But then this was a passion project. I didn't have any expectations. So there was nothing for me to lose. And I think that, and you can tell me otherwise, but in my opinion, this is what makes this podcast special, because it's not scripted. It's not something that, is pre-recorded. I mean, of course it's pre-recorded, but our conversation is not scripted, and it's natural. And I think that that's the important part of the podcast.
I agree. I think that's nice that we miss out on genuine conversations so often right now, because everything's so polished and we're so careful. But at the beginning of anything great that we've done, it's been, when we would look back, we would be like, what on earth? Like, you obviously grow in the process, but you give yourself the opportunity to grow. Yeah. And a lot of times when we're denying ourselves that, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to. We have to let ourselves be a beginner way more often than we think we do.
And also keep that mindset, because if as soon as you think that you're the expert, you're the best, there's nothing more to learn. First of all, I feel that it's getting boring, because then you're just, there's nothing more to learn. And then you're missing out on a lot of things that do change, like AI. I don't know. There's so many other aspects of business, running your own business. Even what you said today with the cycle tracking and all that. That's something new, something interesting to learn about. And Anyways, going back to your the questionnaire that you had, because you also said something about ADHD and business design. Do you want to go a little deeper into that?
Sure. Yeah. So I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 30, around the same time that I was starting my business. Mm-hmm. The reason why I discovered that there was something more going on was, again, because of the pandemic. And I had my whole life was very consequence structured. So it was like, if this thing doesn't happen, then I won't have this other thing that I need. Or if I don't do this today, then this won't happen. And so that was just how I moved through, because I had all these parameters. And then when the pandemic happened, we lost a lot of those all of a sudden. And I could not get myself to do anything. Like the most basic tasks, I would sit and I would stare at this laundry basket and I would be like, I have to fold those and put those away. And I just could not get myself to do it. And I was so confused. I had never felt like that before in my life. I had always struggled to do, but like I said, everything was consequence based. It was like, well, if I don't do that, then it's going to be a problem. And I think a lot of women were getting diagnosed at the same time. So I started seeing a lot of information about how it presented differently in women, and just, it made me curious. And so I moved ahead with getting assessed, and I was diagnosed. And that did alter a lot with how I thought about my business rather than just being like, well, I guess this is just harder for me than for everybody else. I was able to look and say, well, no, we're gonna need some different things set up so that way you can do this. And that was what sort of funneled into me having that idea of looking at my business and saying something's got to give. So how would we change that? So I use that with my clients because a lot of my clients are doing stuff just because it's the way that it's been done when I first start working with them. And they're not really looking at things creatively. And so when I connect with a client, I'm deeply invested in them doing whatever it was that they want to do. I'll tell people, like, I'm like having a co-founder that you don't have to split the check with. Like, I'm in it with you. I want your business to succeed. I want it for you so bad. And I want you to have fun. I want you to go and live the life that you've been working so hard to build. But I like them to view it not like they're accessing my brain. It's like we're accessing their brain together. So I want to understand, like, okay, so if you could do this any way that you wanted to, what would it look like in order for you to do this however you want? How would you communicate with your clients? How would you have them? I work with a lot of people who own marketing agencies. And so, they're always struggling with stuff with like client approvals, like all kinds of things. And so we're always talking about like, okay, what would it look like if you did this however the heck you wanted to? Because there are clients who want to work with you when you're doing things however the heck you want to. You just have to learn how to style them and be confident in that and know why this is better, because there's a reason why it's better. And so that sort of shaped my outlook of, well, what if we created things? We're taking something that we invented from a small spark in our brain, and we started it and we built it out of nothing. We brought it to the world, and people are paying us money to do this thing that we've invented. We get to change the shape of the walls. We can do whatever we want. So that's sort of how that all worked together.
That's awesome. And we are already almost at the end of our recording. And I want to go a little bit deeper, because that's what we said at the beginning, into why you think that reading fiction is one of the best things a business owner can do.
Well, I think we need to have fun. We spend so much time using our brains for really amazing things. But if we're not careful, we do that a little too much. And we end up just consuming information about our businesses. As I tell everybody, your business is cool, but you are cooler. So it's important that we spend time honing our skills, doing things, expanding, getting better. But that can't be the only thing that we consume is our business. Like, we've got so many other facets. So I think that reading fiction is a great gateway for business owners to start looking at having more fun in their life. I also think that it's just so good for us mentally to flex our imagination. If we want to talk about it from the lens of how it benefits your business, using your imagination is one of the most underrated tools for business owners, because you need to imagine how you would like things to be. You need to imagine, how is your ideal client feeling? Maybe your ideal client is not someone that you once were, right? A lot of people, they can connect with their ideal client because that's where they were, 20 steps ago. But maybe your ideal client isn't. Maybe it's somebody that you've never been. So how do you think about how they feel, about how they behave? How would you then help them be in an ecosystem where they can thrive? And I think that reading fiction really helps with that, because that's what you're doing the whole time. You're in a situation where you're usually in one person's head. That person is usually behaving in a very different way than you normally would, especially if you're reading like murder mysteries with an unreliable narrator. I hope that they're behaving differently than you would, but you're spending time with them. And it would be easy to be like, well, I would never do that. Yeah, okay, but what would make somebody do it? That's the whole thing, is that you're kind of flexing that muscle. And once we flex that muscle, now we can take that outward. And I found it was just so much easier to empathize with my imaginary client avatar. It was so much faster, because I was thinking, well, it was almost like building a character, right? Where you're like, okay, so if I was in that spot, if this was going on, what's the rest of my life looking like? How am I feeling about this? What's happening with that? What are my hopes and dreams? What are my habits? Like it just started to round out much easier than being like, oh man, I don't know. So that's why I think that every business owner should read fiction. One, because it's fun. It makes you more interesting and it will help your business.
Yeah. And it's interesting what you said with building a character, because that's what I usually do with my clients when we go through what's your ideal target group. We have an image of, it's a stock image, but it's describe your ideal client. Is it blonde hair? Is it black hair? Glasses, no glasses, Is it a woman? Is it a man? Suit or casual, depending on what the business is. And then we create this page in the branding strategy where you have a picture of the woman, the person that your ideal client is. So that's, yeah. And I think to your point, when you read books, maybe it gets a little easier. Mm-hmm. And what's your favorite book?
Yeah, you asked me this and I didn't think about it anymore. I have so many favorite books though. So I'll pick a classic. I think a book that I've revisited so many times and has shaped just me having fun would probably be Jane Eyre. I read that book for the first time when I was 13. If anybody's read that book, you know the story. And I when I reread that book as an adult, I was really shocked at my 13-year-old self. Have you read the book?
No.
Okay.
But
do you know the story?
No, I do not know the story.
So see, I can't spoil it for you. It's just such a good example of like the English Gothic era of writing. And also the Masterpiece Theater adaptation of it is great. It is really good. But yeah, I read that book when I was 13 and I had a very different read on that book. When I then reread it as an adult, I was like, yeah, wow, okay. What were we thinking? Mr. Rochester is described as like barrel chested and like not attractive at all. Like that's supposed to be the whole thing. But to 13-year-old me, I was like, I just know he's dreamy. And he is like the worst character. He does all kinds of things that I should have been like waving red flags. But as a kid, I'm like, no, you go get him, Jane. You get him. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you actually send me the the name so that I can put it into the show notes for anyone who wants to? I want to check it out now. So I have to finish the book that I'm reading right now. But I'll check it out after I finish that book.
Yeah. Let me know your thoughts.
I want to know, Mr. Rochester.
Yeah, it didn't help that the Masterpiece Theater version, it did actually cast someone who is pretty good looking. It's actually, what was her name? Maggie Smith. She was in Downton Abbey, and it's her son that plays Mr. Rochester. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But yeah, so I think I would pick that as just a long-standing book that I've loved. Jane Austen, all of her books also, but. I mean, I have hundreds of books in my house, so it's hard. It's hard for me to. It's like picking a favorite child.
Yeah. And do they have an audio version for that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good. We talked about this on the pre-call. Then, even if you're listening to a book, it's still reading a book.
It is, and I'm not accepting a debate on this.
No, I'm totally going with it. Yeah. Well, and if someone would like to learn more about what your services, what you offer, and your one-to-one coaching program, it's called Off the Record.
It is, yeah, because we're going off the record. It's that whole idea that there's nothing off the label that you can't talk about with me, and you have a full space to just do what you need. I also offer a 1-day Voxer day intensives, and I call those the hotline. Yeah. And so if you kind of want to sample what it is, you access it to just work through something, whatever you need for the day. Best place to keep up with me on when I have those available, or also get details on Off the Record, would either be Instagram, which is Julia DeWolfe Coaching, or my TikTok, which is just Julia DeWolfe. You could probably find me on LinkedIn too, but I'm not gonna look at it. Yeah, I'm there, but I'm not looking at it.
All right, so Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah, that's the best spot to communicate with me.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for this very detailed information, and I loved just the clarity behind, the cycle and the your whole concept and, doing things your way. That's what I got out of the conversation. And just do it. You have an idea and you're not going to die.
You won't. You won't. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun and so refreshing.
Yes, absolutely. And to all the listeners, if this conversation got you thinking about your own brand and how you are running your business right now, you can fill out the free brand audit scorecard on my website, linecreatives.com. Takes 5 minutes and it'll give you an overview. And subscribe whenever you listen. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And I will see you next time on This Might Get Creative. Bye. Thanks for listening to This Might Get Creative, a Behind the Brand podcast by Line Creatives. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show and share it with someone who loves discovering local businesses and creative entrepreneurs. You can learn more about my work at linecreatives.com or find me on Instagram, line.creatives, and LinkedIn at Line Creatives. Until next time, keep showing up, keep creating, and keep getting seen.